Hey guys, Natalie Forster here, integrative dietitian and founder of Revived Roots. We are an autoimmune wellness company built on the principles of functional medicine and yoga. We really seek to solve or resolve the root cause of your autoimmune condition by aligning you with your body and honoring spirit. So it's very much a holistic approach to health and wellness. So today's topic is what causes autoimmune disease? And I love this question so much because we're seeking to have a deeper understanding to what's actually going on. And this is really what sets functional medicine apart from conventional medicine, is just asking what is the cause, right? What's at the root versus what can we give this person to suppress symptoms and manage the disease that they're experiencing. So thank you so much for being curious. It's people like yourself who will take this information and share it. So you showing up and you caring and just tuning in generally will help our population significantly. All you have to do is share the knowledge. So in this video, I'm going to paint a picture of how genetics, environmental triggers, diet, and lifestyle can all give rise to the development of autoimmunity in the human body. And in later videos, I'll take a much deeper dive into these different overarching causes because there really is so much information. It's quite dense. And I feel like once you have that information and you can understand the why behind the autoimmune protocol, you will feel much more inspired and hopeful and empowered to even take action in your own life. So we will get there. Stay tuned. First overarching cause we want to look at is genetics. Your genetics are the blueprint to how your body works. You cannot change them, so whatever you are born with is what you have. However, your choices and your lifestyle and your environment can actually dictate the expression of those genes. So this is called epigenetics. This is the study of how your environment can influence genetic expression. And we are learning that disease does require a very specific environment to thrive, whereas health or vitality also requires a specific environment to thrive. Now, we'll talk about that in the future. How can we create one versus the other? But we're going to stay on the topic of genetics. So your predisposition for developing an autoimmune disease is based on the genes that you inherit from your parents. It's very common for autoimmune diseases to show up, a variety of them actually, within the same family. If we look at risks, right? So say celiac risk, in the generic general population, 1 in 100 are at risk, whereas within the same family, it's 1 in 22. So you see that there is this kind of lineage to it. Now, unlike genetic diseases where there's 1 or 2 different mutations, when it comes to autoimmune disease, you inherit a larger collection of, I would say, vulnerabilities, genetic vulnerabilities that make you susceptible to a variety of autoimmune conditions. So what you'll see is that in the same family, you might get MS, or you might get rheumatoid arthritis, or you might get Hashimoto's. They don't all need to be the same because there's so many different factors that it really comes down to whatever is weakest for the person who's experiencing the onset. So second one is going to be environmental triggers. And in our culture, right, our holistic health culture, we say that genes load the gun and your environment is what pulls the trigger, right? So again, you have what you have, but the environment, which is modifiable, is actually what dictates the expression of that. So there's a lot of power in this realm, right? And it can be quite handy to blame autoimmune disease on genetics, or just chalk it up to fate or destiny, or think that you don't have any say-so, so you're just going to continue on the path that you're on. But really, it doesn't do you or anyone around you any good to undermine your power in that way. You see, genetics only account for about 1/3 of your risk. The rest is really in your hands, right? It's modifiable, and it's kind of just up to you, right? So when we look at environmental triggers, we're talking about pathogens or chemicals or substances that your immune system is exposed to on a daily basis. And this can show up in, just pollution, polluted water, or even drinking water, tap water, herbicides and pesticides in your foods. It can be chemicals found inside of skincare products, beauty products, cleaning products. building materials, you name it, we are consistently exposed to a variety of toxins on a daily basis. And accumulation of those can actually be a trigger to an unwanted genetic expression, something like an autoimmune disease. So let's see here, a few truths. One, you cannot change any past toxic exposure you may have had, nor can you change any viral infection or any infection that you may have had in the past either. That is done and that's said and that's over with. However, you can regulate your future exposure primarily by regulating your home base, right? The physical home base and also like the body, but also your home environment. And that's really where diet and lifestyle come into play, right? So the power really lies in you taking responsibility for this environment, right? And that's choosing what you eat, that's choosing how you eat, right? What you put onto your body and just the general habits that you build your life with. Now, the third overarching cause is diet and lifestyle. And it's really a subset to those environmental triggers, but it deserves its own big category here because it's so critical. Okay, so when we look at a poor diet, right, we're not going into the nitty-gritty details here because it really is quite intensive, and I really want to give respect to that conversation. So we're just, again, painting a picture. But when it comes to a poor diet, it can contribute to the development of autoimmune disease by really exacerbating intestinal permeability. So this is called leaky gut, dysbiosis, nutritional deficiencies, as well as just overstimulation of the immune system. And that's a lot to kind of take in, right? So when we look at intestinal permeability, there are a couple of drivers, primarily like in the food source, that can really do two things. One, they can go in and they can create gaps between the cells that create the lining of the gut. Those cells are called enterocytes, and you can essentially get inflammation between them where the tight junctions begin to separate, and now you have contents from inside the gut lumen that can seep into the body cavity. This is not ideal, right? This can be undigested intact proteins, pathogens, microorganisms, you name it, but they're coming directly into the system, and they are, as soon as they cross into the bloodstream, they're getting exposed to the immune system, and there's an activation taking place, right? And so there is an immune response. Now, this is not ideal, right? Because once that innate immune system is launched, it is not so specific in what it's targeting. It can actually confuse our own proteins of our tissue that are in the general region of the foreign invader, and that can be beginning pathogenesis to autoimmunity. So another way that they can create permeability, these foods that we'll get into at a later time, is that they can actually transcytose into the cell, and they can, through a matter of series, they can actually cause that enterocyte to die off. And now you have an even larger gap between the inside of the gut lumen and the body cavity, right? So not ideal. When it comes to dysbiosis, this can be an overgrowth of bacteria or yeast, and this can perpetuate nutritional deficiencies along with a myriad of other issues. But nutritional deficiencies are really important here, guys, because there are a variety, and I mean like a large amount of micronutrients that regulate, they're key modulators of the immune system. And so if we become deficient in a couple of those, or even one of them, then the whole immune system regulation becomes compromised. And then the first part of that whole system that's compromised is actually our ability to regulate T cells or create T regulatory cells. And those are really what keep our autoantibodies in check. So we want to make sure that, we're consuming a diet that does not, turn on or ignite permeability or create dysbiosis or deficiencies or even overstimulate the immune system, right? Especially if we are someone dealing with an autoimmune condition, okay? Now, lifestyle-wise, sleep issues or lack of sleep, sedentary lifestyle, so there's lack of movement, unaddressed emotions that store in the body, really big, as well as drug exposure to pharmaceutical or recreational drugs. All of these can contribute to autoimmune rise, right? Because they're all forms of stress. And stress, generally, is, I would say, the greatest risk factor. Stress is kind of like that on-off switch to the genes that we talked about. So really getting your lifestyle in such a way that you know how to manage stress and to work with it and to mitigate it can help you decrease your risk of developing an autoimmune condition quite drastically. Okay, so that's really it, my friends. Those are the 3 overarching causes of autoimmune disease in the human body. If you feel like you need any help with this or you want to learn more, feel free to reach out to me. You can send me a direct message. You can drop a comment in this on this video. Just be sure to tag me and I'll get back to you as soon as possible. Big takeaway here is that, you know, there's really nothing that you can do about your genetics, and there's nothing you can do about your past exposure to environmental triggers. However, there's so much power in your hands just by moderating your diet and your lifestyle. And so I want you to feel inspired and empowered to continue this journey of learning and taking action, whether it's small steps or major shifts, whatever it is that works for you, to just believe that your body is wildly intelligent and it can heal so long as it's given the right resources and environment to do so. All right, I'll be back soon with some other conversations in the realm of autoimmunity. Thank you so much for tuning in. Cheers.